The desert sun beat down mercilessly on Emma's sweat-drenched back as she knelt in the excavation pit, her trowel scraping against something metallic. Her heart raced as she brushed away the sand, revealing a tarnished brass lamp. Its intricate engravings seemed to dance in the shimmering heat, promising secrets long buried beneath the dunes. Emma's mind wandered to the mounting bills waiting for her back home, the constant struggle to fund her research, and the sneers of her more affluent colleagues. She gripped the lamp tightly, its rough surface biting into her calloused palms. "If only," she muttered, absent-mindedly rubbing the side of the artifact. A plume of iridescent smoke erupted from the spout, coalescing into the form of a woman. Her beauty was otherworldly, skin like polished obsidian, eyes gleaming with an inner fire, and hair that seemed to ripple like liquid silver. But there was something unsettling in her smile, a predatory glint that made Emma's blood run cold. "I am Lilith, bound to grant you one wish," the genie purred, her voice like honey laced with venom. "Choose wisely, for the price may be steeper than you imagine." Emma's scientific mind reeled, struggling to rationalize the impossible being before her. But years of financial hardship, of watching less talented peers succeed through nepotism and wealth, overrode her caution. "I wish for unlimited wealth," she blurted out, immediately regretting the lack of specificity in her request. Lilith's eyes flashed with malevolent glee. "As you desire, so shall it be," she hissed, disappearing in a swirl of smoke that seemed to seep into Emma's very pores. The change was immediate. Emma's phone buzzed incessantly with notifications from her bank. Millions, then billions, poured into her accounts from unknown sources. She staggered back to her tent, mind reeling from the impossible windfall. Within days, Emma had abandoned the dig site, trading the unforgiving desert for the lap of luxury. She purchased a sprawling mansion, filled it with priceless art and cutting-edge technology. Every whim was indulged, every desire fulfilled. But as she lounged by her Olympic-sized pool, sipping champagne worth more than her old yearly salary, a nagging unease gnawed at her gut. The first death came 3 weeks after her wish. Her elderly neighbor, a kindly woman who had often shared homemade cookies with Emma during leaner times, was found at the bottom of her stairs. The official ruling was an accident, but Emma couldn't shake the chill that ran down her spine when she learned that the woman's entire estate had been mysteriously willed to her. More deaths followed. A distant cousin Emma had never met was mauled by his prize-winning show dog. A former classmate choked on a grape at a charity gala. Each tragedy brought a new influx of wealth to Emma's already overflowing coffers. As the body count rose, so did Emma's paranoia. She began to see accusation in every glance, hear whispers of suspicion in every conversation. She withdrew from the world, surrounding herself with an army of security personnel and lawyers. One night, unable to sleep, Emma wandered the cavernous halls of her mansion. The tap of her bare feet on marble echoed hollowly, a reminder of how alone she truly was. She found herself in her study, staring at the tarnished lamp that now served as a macabre paperweight. "Why?" she whispered, tracing the engravings with a trembling finger. "Why them? Why me?" Lilith's laughter filled the room, though the genie remained unseen. "You wished for unlimited wealth, my dear," her disembodied voice taunted. "Did you think such power came without cost? Every fortune is built on the misfortune of others. I merely made the connection, more direct." Emma's stomach churned as the full horror of her situation dawned on her. She ran to her computer, frantically transferring funds to charities, trying to rid herself of the blood money. But for every dollar she gave away, another life was snuffed out. The next morning's news was filled with reports of a devastating earthquake in a remote village, a tragic plane crash, a mysterious illness sweeping through a small town. All survivors and next of kin found themselves inexplicably named in the wills of the deceased, with Emma as the sole beneficiary should they too perish. Desperate to break the curse, Emma sought out mystics and occultists. Each attempt to undo her wish ended in failure and more death. The psychic who tried to cleanse her aura burst into flames before her eyes. The voodoo priestess who attempted to transfer the curse was found dismembered in her own ritual circle. As her wealth grew, so did the suspicions of authorities. Detective James Morrison, a grizzled veteran with eyes that had seen too much, began connecting the dots between the mysterious deaths and Emma's ever-increasing fortune. "Ms. Blackwood," Morrison growled during one particularly tense interrogation, "I've seen a lot of strange things in my years on the force, but nothing like this. People don't just drop dead and leave their fortunes to a stranger. What's your secret?" Emma's heart raced as she met the detective's steely gaze. She opened her mouth to confess, to beg for help, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she heard herself saying, "I'm simply lucky, detective. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a busy day ahead." As she walked away, Emma caught a glimpse of herself in a mirror. For a moment, she could have sworn her eyes flashed with the same predatory glint she had seen in Lilith's. The investigation intensified. Emma's homes were raided, her accounts frozen. But for every setback, more tragedy struck. The judge who signed the search warrant suffered a fatal heart attack. The forensic accountant examining her finances was struck by lightning on a cloudless day. Emma retreated further into isolation, converting her mansion into a fortress. Security cameras monitored every inch of the property. Armed guards patrolled day and night, but no amount of physical protection could shield her from the horror of her own mind. Every night, Emma dreamed of the lives she had inadvertently destroyed. She saw faces contorted in agony, heard the screams of the dying. In her waking hours, she was haunted by phantom whispers, accusing her of murder, of greed, of playing God. One particularly harrowing night, Emma found herself in her vault, surrounded by mountains of gold and precious gems. The wealth that had once brought her such joy now felt like a prison. She clawed at the bars of her gilded cage, screaming until her throat was raw. "Make it stop," she sobbed, collapsing to her knees. "I'll give it all away, just make it stop." Lilith materialized before her, her beauty now terrifying in its perfection. "Oh, my dear Emma," she cooed, running a razor-sharp nail along Emma's tear-stained cheek. "Don't you understand? This is what you wished for. Unlimited wealth, unlimited power. The ability to shape the world to your will. Why fight it?" Emma looked up, her eyes wild with desperation. "I never wanted this. I never wanted people to die." Lilith's laughter was like shards of glass in Emma's ears. "Didn't you? Think back, Emma. All those times you resented your wealthy peers, wished for their downfall. The bitterness you felt towards a world that seemed to reward mediocrity while ignoring your brilliance. Deep down, you've always known that to rise, others must fall." As Lilith's words sank in, Emma felt something inside her break. The last shred of her humanity, perhaps. She rose to her feet, a new coldness settling over her features. "You're right," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "Why fight it?" From that moment on, Emma embraced her curse. She began to actively seek out ways to increase her wealth, knowing full well the cost in human lives. She manipulated markets, causing economic collapses that filled her coffers while leaving millions destitute. She funded both sides of conflicts, watching dispassionately as war tore nations apart. Detective Morrison, now gray and haggard from years of fruitless investigation, made one last attempt to bring Emma to justice. He managed to infiltrate her mansion, armed with what he believed was irrefutable evidence of her crimes. Emma found him in her study, rifling through her files. For a moment their eyes met, and Morrison saw the emptiness behind her gaze. "My God," he whispered. "What have you become?" With inhuman speed, Emma crossed the room and wrapped her hands around Morrison's throat. As she squeezed the life from him, she leaned in close and whispered, "I've become what the world made me. what you all wished for, a monster worthy of your fear. As Morrison's lifeless body crumpled to the floor, Emma felt a surge of power unlike anything she had experienced before. She turned to find Lilith watching her, a proud smile on her face. "Well done, my child," the genie purred. "You've finally embraced your true nature? How does it feel?" Emma's lips curled into a cruel smirk. "It feels right," she replied, her voice as cold as the grave. "I think it's time we shared this gift with the rest of the world, don't you?" Lilith's laughter mingled with Emma's as they began to plot. The age of humanity was coming to an end, and a new era of darkness was about to begin. And at its helm stood Emma, once a brilliant scientist, now the wealthiest and most terrifying being alive, a true monster born from the simple wish for unlimited wealth. As news of unexplained deaths and economic catastrophes spread across the globe, people huddled in their homes, whispering fearfully about the shadowy figure behind it all. They say that on quiet nights, you can hear the sound of coins clinking, a chilling reminder that in this new world order, every life has its price. And somewhere, in a fortress of gold and blood, Emma sits on her throne of bones, counting her endless wealth and waiting for the next fool to make a wish.